Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
This is True Crime Cast, and I'm Jamie here with 100% John.
I'm back, baby.
You feel 100%? I know you didn't feel sick anyway, but your voice was...
never felt sick. But
it's going to sound weird because we recorded True Crime to Go last week, and you sound terrible. Now we're recording True Crime Cast after that, and you feel better.
Yeah.
But it's coming out first, so
the
we'll find out about
like,
his voice tomorrow.
They're going to be like, man, John got hit hard overnight.
Well, yeah, one day, yeah. So it was not good. He's not feeling, or he wasn't sounding great. But you're here, you're back, and I'm glad to have you, man.
I had a great time hunting this weekend, and I'm going to say, quote unquote, recuperating my voice because you have to be really quiet when you hunt.
You do. You do. I need to take my kids hunting just so they'll shut up.
I will have some stories for you next week on Bless Their Hearts.
Okay, I can't wait. I cannot wait. I also can't wait for today's case. It's going to be a really good one.
Well, do you have anything you want to do, or you just want to jump right into it?
Well, let me say this. This is set in England. Crime Con is coming up in just a few weeks now. If you're interested in going, you can still get a discount. TCC10 is the code. Our friend Joe from England is going to be there, and I'm going to meet her in person, and I just need to apologize now. As one of our longest listeners, we've known Joe forever. She's one of the OGs. We're going to butcher some names, okay, of places. So we just need to get that out of the way, I think.
Yeah, and man, I can't even go to Vegas because of what Joe will say to me after this episode.
Yeah, that's why. John is
I'm turning off my DMs. So Joe, just know that in my heart, I'm sorry. I will not be responding to your messages this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one, but it is a good one. So definitely worth whatever location names we butcher.
All right, man. Why don't you get the ball rolling?
Today, we're going to talk about Raoul Thomas Moat.
I love that we're talking about moats.
Moats.
You know?
Like around a castle?
Mm-hmm. Because we are going to Newcastle, England.
It is a Newcastle in England. In 1973 is when Moat was born. His mom struggled with bipolar disorder and spent a lot of time in mental hospitals. So he kind of had that genetic issue handed down to him. He and his half-brother were, for the most of their childhood, raised by their grandparents. Moat grew up to have several different jobs after school. He worked as a panel beater, which is the British term for somebody who works on auto body parts. And
that makes sense. I would have, if you would have just said, what job is a panel beater? I would have been like, I don't have any idea.
Yeah. So they beat the panels of a car back into shape. So they get your dents out, man.
Cars in America are made out of plastic. So
yeah, we don't get dents anymore. Everything just breaks. He also worked as a tree surgeon. You want to guess at that one?
An arborist?
That's somebody who assesses the safety and health of plants and trees.
Oh, in America, we were just like, cut it down. But it's healthy. Cut it down.
Yeah, we need more paper. So he worked in the forest, which is important for our story. He worked on cars. And at the time of the story, he worked as a nightclub bouncer because Raoul Moat was jacked.
I was going to say, this sounds like a manly man.
He was an amateur bodybuilder. So he was able to be the kind of bouncer that didn't have to do his job a lot just because of the way he worked. And he had 3 young kids. So he was having to work several different jobs to try to support them.
By 2010, unfortunately, he was well known to police. This was a guy who stood 6'3". He was prone to what they call eruptions of anger. That was like me in my 20s.
Yeah, it sounds... I mean, he's tall, he's broad, he has lots of muscles, and he's easily angered. It's a very scary guy. I get Lou Ferrigno, Incredible Hulk vibes.
In the past, he had sought psychiatric help. He described himself as emotionally unstable. Well, you know that recognizing it is, one of the first signs. Oh, he didn't recognize it. He was, he did. He said he described himself. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the awareness is interesting given the fact that it continues.
He'd been arrested 12 times, charged with 7 crimes. Only one of those crimes would send him to jail. So 37-year-old Moat spent 18 weeks in jail for assaulting his 9-year-old cousin. Let me say that again. He was 37 years old, and he assaulted his 9-year-old cousin. Again, next week on Bless Their Hearts, I have a story about me being assaulted by my cousin, who's also 9 years old.
Yeah. But you were assaulted. This
Yes.
was Moat assaulting.
And I didn't assault back.
Good for you. I'm actually a little surprised by that.
I laughed because it was just listen to Bless Their Hearts next week.
Okay. Not this week, but next week.
He was released from prison on July 1, 2010.
Yeah. Again, a 9-year-old kid, I have to think this is a scenario where he's getting annoyed to the point of his, what I think we referred to earlier as eruptions of anger, and lashed out at the kid. And it's a horrible situation. Imagine being a 9-year-old kid and the Incredible Hulk attacking you. It's not a good look. At this time, he had a young daughter with a woman named Samantha Staubert. And once he got out of prison, he was hoping to get back together with Samantha. However, since they had not been together and he had been in prison for almost 5 months, she had moved on and was seeing a new guy named Christopher Brown. Chris was a 29-year-old karate instructor who had moved to Samantha's town of Bertley 6 months before he got together with Samantha. Because Samantha, who was 22 at the time, again, Raoul is 36 at this time, or 37-year-old. It's quite a big age difference, but they're both adults. It is what it is. Samantha was very afraid of him as well, and she told him, leave me alone. I'm afraid of you. Chris is a karate instructor and a police officer. So she hoped that this would cause Moat to stay away from her and not to bother her. Unfortunately, this only added fuel to the fire. Moat was already mad at the police. They had put him behind bars. They had arrested him 12 times. And this just made him even more angry at law enforcement. He blamed police for the collapse of his business, and he claimed to have lost everything thanks to law enforcement.
Early in the morning of July 3rd, 2010, Moat went to Samantha's home in Bertley, where Chris was also staying. Now, Moat claims that he spent an hour and a half crouched outside the living room window, and he was listening to Samantha and Chris make fun of him. So, I don't know. What are the odds of that? You just roll up, crouch beside a window, and then overhear them making fun of you for an hour and a half? That's interesting.
The timing. And, this is in part according to him. And maybe they did mention his name, but it's almost like he was looking for a reason to get even more angry. And I don't think he would have stayed there for 90 minutes of listening to it. I imagine he would have heard one word and snapped.
At 2:40 a.m., Chris ended up seeing Moat and went outside to confront him. Moat shot Chris with a shotgun, instantly killing him. Samantha's mother was at the house, and while she was calling the police, Moat shot through the front room window, hitting Samantha in the abdomen. Now, the couple's daughter was also asleep in the house. Samantha was badly injured. Ultimately, she survived the shooting after undergoing surgery and being hospitalized, with police having to stand guard and watch her the entire time.
Now, up to this point, we know he's been arrested a dozen times, charged with 7 crimes. This is the first time we see him unleashing a firearm on other people. And I think this was probably very unexpected. I think Chris probably knew that Raoul was violent and that he could expect potentially a physical altercation when he confronted him. And maybe he was prepared for that, but I don't think anybody's prepared for somebody to show up with a shotgun and just open fire before there's really even any argument. Moat immediately fled the scene, seeking the help of friends to help him hide from police. He gave one friend a 49-page letter addressed to the police. I imagine this was written in normal handwriting. It wasn't copied and pasted from magazines. It wasn't written in huge letters. 49 pages is a long letter, John. I don't know that I would read it.
No, I
Somebody
quit
sent
after
me
like 2.
one that long. So it's obvious that he had a lot of thoughts. He had a lot of opinions and emotions. In it, he said that his children, his freedom, his house, his then ex-partner and their daughter were all taken away from him. And it was all because of law enforcement. And ultimately it said that they're going to pay for what they've done. It also said the public need not fear me, but the police should, as I won't stop till I'm dead. He admitted that he had issues, that he wasn't perfect. He had caused some problems himself, but at this point he was running out of options. He said he was never violent toward children, but we know that he did have that happen at least once in one of his violent outrages. Police held a news conference when they got this letter to inform the public that Moat was on the loose, he was dangerous, and that everybody needed to be careful. If you're police and you receive this, do you think, yeah, this guy's not going to hurt anybody unless it's a cop? We don't need to tell people. Obviously, they have a press conference. Do they think he's just lost his mind or what?
Yeah, I think they need to get the news out there that, hey, this guy is potentially armed and dangerous. If you see him, don't approach him. Call the police immediately. I think they were operating out of a sense of, fear because this guy's obviously unstable and we don't know what he's going to do next.
And if Chris, being law enforcement, I mean, he had already shot one officer, and that it's hard to find a faster way to motivate and unify people than attacking law enforcement. They will come together to get you.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's a brotherhood, and rightfully so. Absolutely, you're right. I think they were going to bound together to get him, and also wanted the public to be aware.
Now we go to July 4th of 2010. John, I have to imagine that July 4th is just kind of a sad day in England.
Just another day, or do you think they think about it?
I think it's American Independence Day, and they're like,
is it like the one that got away?
Yeah, I think it's got to be awkward. It didn't start good for Raoul either.
No, on the night of July 4th, Moat called the police to taunt them. He said that he had planned to shoot a police officer. You would imagine, or maybe not. I mean, if that happens, then maybe he calls the equivalent of 911 over there, or dispatch or whatever. Do they send out a call like, hey, just FYI, this guy called? Like, they're already looking for him. But I'm just curious to know if something went out over the air. Like, hey, he's made another threat, so just be especially on the lookout.
I would think so. But what's your posture there as an officer? Is it, okay, I got my head on a swivel, or, okay, let's find this guy, bring it on?
It's like, you mess around and find out.
Yep. Okay, I get it.
12 minutes later, a police constable named David Rathband was in his squad car. He was going through a roundabout, and that's when Moat shot him twice through his car window. Moat went back on the run, and the constable was rushed to the Newcastle General Hospital in critical condition. He had injuries to his upper head, to his body. Thankfully, he did survive the shooting. He did lose his sight, so his life forever changed, but his life will continue. 50 minutes after the shooting, Moat called the police again, showing absolutely no remorse and complaining that the police were not taking him seriously enough. Police urged Moat to turn himself in for the sake of his children.
When we get back to the break, police go back to the media for help to try to figure out how to stop this guy on a mission. At this point in our story, Raoul Moat has shot 3 people, and 2 of them would ultimately survive, but at this time we didn't know that. He had actually just shot Officer Rathband hours earlier, but police were able to connect with Samantha, and they relayed a message to Moat through the media from Samantha, asking him to stop this shooting spree if he still cared for her and their daughter. So now they're trying to appeal to his humanity. And she also admitted that she lied about Chris being a police officer. So if you roll it back a little bit, that was kind of what tipped the scales for him turning on all police officers, was hating Chris. And the first one he went after was Chris. Samantha's sister then reported that Moat was posting a hit list on Facebook that included Samantha and other members of her family. It also said he would take out any police that got in his way. In response, police launched the largest manhunt in 44 years. 160 armed officers, helicopters, dogs, and armored anti-terrorist vehicles were all deployed to find Moat. Responders were sent from across Wales, Northern Ireland, and across England, and they were all looking for Moat to prevent other people from being hurt. But again, you've, at this point, tried to shoot 2 police officers. One of them was not really a police officer, but you shot an officer and called and really in some ways kind of heckled law enforcement that they hadn't done anything to stop him. During this whole ordeal, Moat allegedly continued to threaten police with calls from payphones all around the area saying that he would kill any officer that he saw in this rampage. Police were stationed outside schools, outside of any area where there's a large population, and there were several people arrested on suspicion of trying to help Moat. He was trying to get his friends to help him hide, to help him navigate the area, and they brought in a lot of those people for questioning. They asked the public for any information about where to find him, and they offered a 10,000-pound reward. A lot of times we're offering rewards for missing people, but for it to happen this quick in an investigation, in an effort to find somebody, shows how serious they were, I think.
10,000 pounds of what? I'm kidding.
That's what
That's a dad joke.
Call dollars.
Yeah. So
kind of.
By July 6th, this will be 3 days after the initial shooting, police had tracked Moat to Rothbury. This is a small town in the Northumberland countryside. It's a very small town surrounded by woods, but Moat knew the area well. He had spent some time in his childhood there. Meanwhile, the search was growing.
And let me jump in and remind you that he was a tree surgeon. Was that the word we used earlier?
Yeah.
He worked in the forest.
A tree surgeon.
That was it. Yeah.
So the search is growing. The police secretly brought in Ray Mears. He was a popular TV survivalist expert and a tracker. So they brought him in to help track Moat.
So just imagine this happens in America and we call up Bear Grylls and we're like,
I couldn't think of his name. Thank you. Yes, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Is he also like Australian?
I assume every tough person is
American.
Yeah. No, Americans aren't that tough.
Oh, brother.
I mean, we won that war.
The news provided updates, and it included one anchor reporting while holding a police-issued semi-automatic carbine rifle. That's pretty baller. You know, I know that when we're having really bad weather in America, we'll send reporters out to like some of the worst places they could be with umbrellas and rain jackets, but here they have a reporter holding a gun while doing her news broadcast.
Yeah, and you know, I imagine they did this to send a message to Moat that we're all out here, we're going to get you. But think about if you're a mom at home with your kids, like even the reporter lady has a semi-automatic rifle. Am I safe? Like maybe the message they sent's not the one that was received.
That's what I'm thinking is the message is probably putting just a crazy amount of fear in the hearts of everybody watching. But, you know, they probably should be somewhat fearful and be alert because this guy is crazy. One story claimed his mother said that Moat would be better off dead. The police warned that these reports were winding Moat up since he saw them as inaccurate. So police are saying actually some of these reports that are coming out doing the exact opposite. They're making him more amped up, more eager to reach back out because they're not true. And some of them are probably ticking this guy off. They urged news sites to take these stories down, but reports were already spreading across social media. And we know that he's on Facebook at least. So he's able to see some of this stuff.
Right. And, you know, some of these people want the attention and it could be that that's part of what he wanted. And if he's getting it, then he's going to drag this thing out. And it dragged out for several days. By July 9th, which was 5 days after the attack on Chris and Samantha, police found one of Moat's camps in the woods. There, they discovered 3 separate mobile phones and a cassette recorder where Moat had recorded a 4-hour rant about his situation. Let me take you back to the 49-page letter he wrote to and about law enforcement.
This guy needs to learn like shorthand.
Thinks a lot of thoughts and apparently doesn't think them well to put himself in this situation. That evening, locals were told to stay indoors because there was a major security operation taking place. Moat had been found, and police had surrounded him on a riverbank. He was holding a gun to his own head. Negotiators desperately pleaded with Moat to hand himself over to put the weapon down, reminding him that he had children, that he had people that looked up to him, and that they didn't need to see this, and that it would, just about everything is recorded nowadays, so it would have leaked out to where they could see it, and the standoff took hours. It was reported they even brought Moat food and water during this. Essentially, it's a hostage negotiation with himself being the hostage. They brought in his best friend to try to persuade him to turn himself in and put the gun down, and this is surprising to me. And I don't want this to be translated the wrong way, but if he's there and he's posing a risk to officers, given what has happened, I imagine they're not going to be too uptight about protecting themselves in that scenario. Do you agree with me? Is that too...
I just think that they're doing some odd stuff to get this guy. They've already brought in a celebrity who's an expert tracker. I almost get bringing in the best friend to attempt, but maybe that's a phone call instead of getting him onto the scene, right? But it gets even more weird. So let me tell you about this. At one point, they actually brought in a former England soccer player, and this guy is famous. Paul, Jamie, do you want to?
I would say Gascoigne.
Paul Gascoigne. He arrived at the scene as well to try to stop this standoff. They are pulling out every punch right now. This seems like a weird movie instead of real life.
Yeah, you would never do this, John, but if this were you, they'd be bringing in Bear Grylls and Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning would have to talk me off the ledge, Man,
weird.
They wouldn't need Bear Grylls to find me. It's like, I'm not getting around as much as I was in my 20s.
Like, well, he was over there. He's got to be close by.
We see so many little Debbies rappers.
This is wild to me, though, that they are going through this to capture him alive. I'm sure they want to see him held accountable and go to trial, but I don't know. I can't imagine there's any love lost here. So I applaud them, I guess, for their effort and for their patience and for them trying to keep him alive when the easier decision would have been to say, hey, he had a gun and we took him out.
What's interesting, I don't know where they ended up pulling this guy from, but reportedly he showed up in a taxi under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. The soccer player offered to bring Moat, quote, chicken and lager, and then take him fishing as a way to get him to surrender. Now, you joked about it, but if Peyton Manning was like, hey man, let's go after this is over, we'll toss the ball around a little bit. Like, all right.
We'll get some fried chicken.
He does own a restaurant in Knoxville. So no, he told police he was Moat's friend and knew how to get him to surrender. Police did not allow him to talk to Moat. It became a running joke online to ask police if this guy was showing up with chicken and lager every time they set up a crime scene. In 2023, ITV released a true crime drama about the murders in Manhunt, and they intentionally left out the chicken and lager incident so they would not trivialize the tragedy. But if this happened, man, that's wild.
If you throw this in there, it's automatically a comedy scene. Like, there's no way you can present that without it being comical and kind of ridiculous. So I get why they left it out, because they're trying to tell a serious story here.
Are these decisions coming from the top down, or are they coming from the bottom up and don't make it to the top before they pull the trigger?
I don't know. It's so odd to me, this whole scenario is. And again, this was just 16 years ago. This wasn't back in the 70s. It was not that long ago. Police attempted to talk him down for hours when at 1:15 in the morning on July 10th, 2 officers fired experimental tasers at Moat. In that moment, either just before or just after they fired these tasers, Moat shot himself. The police who were there were cleared of any wrongdoing. They had done their due diligence to try to save his life. Ultimately, he chose to take his life, and they were not held accountable for that. Moat was taken to Newcastle General, where he was pronounced dead at 2:20 a.m. The coroner declared that the cause of death was, in fact, a suicide by gunshot wound. While investigating the entire event, it was uncovered that Moat had previously told an inmate that he had planned to harm Samantha as soon as he got out of prison. He wasn't going to waste any time. He was angry at her because she didn't want to be with him, and she wanted to keep him away from their daughter. It was suggested this information was passed on to the police and that they failed to act on it at the time. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt here as well, that every time somebody's released from jail or prison, I'm sure they've made some threats. I don't know. You can't put everybody in protective custody all the time. Now, they certainly could have at least warned her. I think that's an easy thing to do, but it sounds like she had communicated with him since he got out, so I'm kind of torn on that one.
Following his death, people brought flowers to the scene of his standoff. Messages of sympathy were left for him on Facebook. To some people, Moat's time on the run was the same to them as O.J. Simpson's chase in the Bronco on an L.A. freeway. One woman set up a Facebook page called Rest in Peace, Raoul Moat, You Legend. After she took the page down, she claimed that she thought Moat was, quote, funny. That's
wow.
Ridiculous. More than 30,000 people joined a separate Facebook group called R.I.P. Raoul Moat. One post in that group said, how many people cussing him on here would be able to keep thousands of armed police at bay for 8 days? I think all of them would be passively, or I think most of them would passively surrender. That's why he's an inspiration. The internet never ceases to amaze me that people would actually say this, but most people would never actually say this like out loud to a reasonable person, but they get behind a screen and with a keyboard and they say ridiculous stuff.
And this, to be clear, this is absolutely absurd to call this guy a hero in any way. You and I got bashed online quite a bit for speaking out against Luigi Mangione. He received quite a bit of support for murdering a healthcare exec. And here we have somebody murdering law enforcement. I have to imagine, like, even when law enforcement is in the news for bad reasons, I mean, there's a respect for the office there and the risk they take to keep us safe. And I have such a hard time wrapping my mind around supporting the cold-blooded murder of law enforcement that I can't fathom why they would do this.
Yeah, there's a criminologist that they interviewed on Sky News, David Wilson, and he basically said that for a lot of people, Moat was kind of an anti-hero, that he was a working class guy. He was masculine mentality. And again, yeah, a kind of anti-hero. I don't live in a world where I, look up to people like Moat. This is a dangerous guy. He took the life of someone and tried to take the lives of at least 2 other folks. So there's no room in my heart for any kind of positive thoughts for this guy.
Right. He's not out there doing good for the world. Usually an anti-hero, I yield to comic books for that definition, but it's somebody who may be a jerk and selfish motives, but they end up working for the common good. There's no common good with what he's doing here. And I'm kind of grossed out by anybody trying to make the claim that he was. Prime Minister David Cameron obviously did not agree with these sentiments. He said, it's absolutely clear that Raoul Moat was a callous murderer. Full stop. End of story. I cannot understand any wave, however small, of public sympathy for this man. There should be sympathy for his victims and the havoc he wreaked in that community. There should be no sympathy for him, end quote. The police chief, who has led the manhunt, was concerned about people seeing Moat as a hero and potentially copying him. She came forward and said, I don't feel empathy for somebody who sadistically gunned down and killed one individual and seriously harmed 2 others. And I'm on board with with the chief here. And I don't know. I would worry about copycats or people jumping in on this as well with the feedback you're seeing online. But I also think you're right, John. It's much easier to be brave behind a keyboard than it is out on the riverbank.
A sad note to end this case, talking about David Rathband. So 18 months after the shooting that left him blind, he set up a blue light foundation as a way to help other members of emergency services who are injured in the line of duty. And this act earned him what was called the Pride of Britain Award. However, in February 2012, he was found dead in his home. He had hung himself. So what's awful and even more tragic is that June, he was set to carry the Olympic torch as part of the 2012 Summer Olympic Torch Relay. Instead, his daughter, Maya, ended up running with the torch. And as a tribute to her dad, she blindfolded herself and ran the torch in honor of her father. So that gave me chill bumps as I said that, just because of her love that she did that to honor her dad, and just tragic that he would do this. And it, you wonder, all of these feelings that led him to this, did all of those come from his injury and everything he had to go through at the hands of Moat?
Right. And he's not going to go down as a murder victim of Moat, but I mean, his death, you have to think, and maybe we could prove this if there are therapy notes and that kind of thing, but you would have to think that it played some role in him deciding to take his life. So
absolutely. You take a man who loves his job and they can't do it anymore. That's going to resolve itself, or that's going to manifest anger. That's going to bring so much resentment.
That monster took his sight away. Yeah. He's not able to see his kids anymore, and that's tragic. And we don't talk a lot about the long-term effects of criminals like this. And could he be, if he were in prison, could this be changed to a murder charge at this point? I don't know, given the actual cause of death wasn't inflicted by Moat, but it's disgusting either way. I fully resent the way that people supported Raoul Moat, and anybody that continues to do so. Yeah, I mean, go touch grass or something. This is not okay in any society to applaud the cold-blooded murder of not only innocent people, but people that are trying to protect you and keep you safe.
Yeah. This guy is a dirtbag. I mean, I don't really have that much else to say about him.
And again, I don't think we can overstate the amount of fear he put in the community. This guy who is obviously very physically fit, lots of muscles, huge, comfortable, hiding in the woods with weapons and sending manifestos out to kill people, specifically police officers, whether it's specific to them or not, the fear throughout the community. If I'm hearing about this, watching a news anchor with a rifle, like, I don't know, man, that's another level of influence and negativity that we don't see as much, thankfully.
I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, what comes to my mind is when we had the I-75 shooting down in Laurel County.
Good point.
That guy was, held up in the woods. We knew that. We didn't know where he was going, who, if anybody, was helping him. So we live 40 miles away from where that happened, but schools around us, like in our vicinity, were closed because of, this guy's obviously unhinged and we don't know where he's at, and he's close enough that he very well could be here.
Yeah.
So
we are literally all in danger.
Yep. So we were on edge. We were paying attention to the pictures that we saw online and of the news reports. And, we had our heads on swivels at gas pumps or in public. So I get it for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good analogy. That I hadn't put that together, but that's very similar. And obviously Moat took his own life, and I think the I-75 shooter did as well. So no further damage was done after that, but sad story here for all involved. And, you hate to see any community go through this. It seems that those that did go through this were trying to respond in ways to help their community and to prevent this from happening again. So kudos to you, and just such a fascinating story that this sounds like another one that's a movie that would be so unbelievable you wouldn't make it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, we appreciate you, man. This was an interesting one. And guys, we appreciate you. If you don't mind, take a few minutes just to leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to this. That helps new listeners get access to see our show, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, and we don't use the word subscribe very much. That's usually a YouTube thing. We are on YouTube. Would love for you to subscribe over there, or we're on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. We looking to continue to grow the show, and we've already had more listeners than we ever expected, but we really would appreciate it if you will help us to take another step forward, and those are great ways to do that, even if the review is just an episode recommendation, or thanks, guys, or try to pronounce names better. We get that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe
I'm
put
sorry,
5
guys.
stars with it. No, it's me too. I mean, we didn't knock it out of the park tonight, but I don't think I think Joe would be proud.
I think Joe would be proud.
I'll let you know what she says in Vegas, all right?
Fair enough. Guys, we love you. And until next crime, this has been True Crimecast.
You've listened to True Crimecast, distributed by Stoveleg Media. Check out stoveleg.com to find out more about your hosts and to find other podcasts to listen to. Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.